Welcome to Human Powered, the podcast about creating a high-performing agency or consultancy business. I'm Trenton Moss, and today I have Alex Bodini, co-founder and group CEO at Spin. Alex, hello.
Hello there.
Alex, you founded Spin 9 years ago. It's a creative-first social agency, and you've grown it over the years to a roughly £6 million turnover and a 75-person business. Something that I think is really interesting about your agency is you have such a young average age. I think it's about 24. Let's start there. Tell me, how do you get the best out of such a young and highly creative team?
It's a really good question, and I suppose it's probably one of the things that people are most interested by when they think about Spin, because ultimately the way that we see it is social really is it's a young person's game. It's one of the few industries where being young, connected to culture is a massive advantage, and therefore we want to kind of press that home. But it definitely means that there are some other elements potentially lacking and some other elements and skills that we have to build. One of the frameworks that we use, which we came across a little while ago, and it really kind of captured, I guess, leadership in general, but specifically for younger people, is this idea of high challenge and high support. And it kind of comes down to this idea that there's essentially this quadrant, if you like, where you've got challenge and support on different axes. And essentially it shows that if you're, for example, low challenge and low support, that's where essentially you alienate people and people don't feel like they know what to do and they don't know where they stand. If you're high challenge and high support, you're essentially overbearing and you're controlling and people find it hard. Whereas the sweet spot is this idea of high challenge and high support. So what we try to do from SLT level down through to every different member within the team is create an environment whereby everybody knows what their challenge is. Like, we make no bones about the fact that we are pushing. We push people, we want to get better, we want to get faster, we need to improve what we do all the time. And we're okay about saying that. But we can't just challenge people without this idea of high support. And what we make sure is that, be it through one-to-ones, be it through mentorship, be it through appraisals, be it through kind of recognition pieces, we make sure that people feel supported in their role. And we try to have as open a dialogue as possible. Fundamentally, for us, it's given us the right pathway for people to know what we're looking for.
Tell me a bit about the practical application of making high challenge, high support a reality within Spin.
I've probably read so many business books and kind of like non-fiction models and books and things like that. I've read all the productivity ones, all the leadership ones, all the management ones, and so often these things just don't translate into the real world, or they don't feel applicable to us and our sector. Like, often they're written by kind of Silicon Valley people for Silicon Valley cultures. So for whatever reason, when we came across High Challenge, High Support, is we actually thought, okay, well, it's easily memorable. We're open with our team about it. So I think it's probably one of the first things is we took our whole team through the model. So it wasn't a case of, oh, this is a kind of a management technique that we taught people about and they tried to kind of like coach the team on. We, in our extended company meeting, we said, hey, look, everyone, this is the model that we're using. Here's how we think about leadership, which therefore means everybody's on the same page, because people can then ask questions or raise points or speak to HR and say, hey, look, I'm getting the high challenge bit, but I'm not really getting the support bit. Or sometimes the other way around, and actually we know they're getting loads and loads of support, but actually they're being protected or they're not being encouraged to move forward or whatever it might be. So it's one of the few things that we've thrown at the wall that has actually stuck, and is actually stuck in management meetings, has stuck in appraisals and things like that. But certainly over communication of that, I think really helped the whole thing stick. And we definitely did give examples. There are various different examples of what that looks like. For example, like, we changed our appraisal templates around a little bit to make them much more kind of like objective focused. And then when we look at those objectives, we make sure that they are ultimately challenging. And then support structure, it really comes down to employee surveys. And whilst it's anonymized, it gives us a clear indication of whether or not we are creating that supportive environment that we aim for.
And it sounds to me like that what this model has done is create a common vocabulary internally.
Yeah, exactly. That's something we do work quite hard at, is like this idea of like rituals and key phrases. And we're not perfect at it by any means, but certain of our values, for example, everybody can recall straight away. We know that's a value. We know it's kind of part of what we do. So certainly phraseology and trying to promote certain things through posters, repetition, team meetings, recognition in team meetings. Those type of things do help certain phrases stick, and I think they do become part of the dialogue and part of the culture for sure.
And it's great that on your leadership journey, you've learned the value of over communication. There's something called the mere exposure effect that says for us to get used to an idea, we need to be exposed to it 10 to 20 times. And it sounds like you're doing that in practice.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things I had to do is, for a while, when I was bringing up like a new concept I wanted to bring to the company, I would think about it, then I'd write it down, then I'd think it through, then it'd be quite familiar in my head. Then I'd speak to Max, my business partner and co-founder, on it. Then I'd maybe speak to the SLT about it and get an opinion on it. And then I'd eventually, after I've spoken about it 10 times, I would then finally tell the team about it. And for the first little while, I'd be like, why don't they remember it? Why don't they remember what I was saying? Like, kind of thinking, because in my head, I was so exposed to the concept. It was so much part of it what I was planning. But from their side, it was the first time they've heard of it. And when I did say it, it was in and amongst many other messages I gave that day. So I had to kind of like realize that over communication and repetition is just, even though I find myself being like, oh God, am I just getting a bit boring here saying the same thing? Whereas actually the lens is more like, okay, this is the first or second time a lot of people are hearing things, especially in an environment like Spin, whereby new people arrive and some people leave all the time. Whatever was said in the, let's say, November team meeting back in the last year, it's probably been, a lot of it's forgotten by now, and a lot of it hasn't been said to the new people. So whilst I kind of officially I'm titled CEO, there's an expression like everybody needs to be the CRO, which is like Chief Repeating Officer. And it's a bit like cheesy, but I remember like reading that in a book one time being like, actually, everybody feels this way. You have to just repeat things all the time, and that's okay.
I love that. Alex Bodini, CEO and CRO. So you've set up this high challenge, high support model. Tell me a bit about the problems that it's looking to solve. You know, what are those main challenges that you have with working with such a young team?
We're trying to find that balance between process and guide rails versus allowing people to do their best work and allowing people to be free to do what they need to do. The problem that people find, or that we sometimes find, is that Spin is evolving all the time. Like, we're moving forward really, really fast. We started off, like, as we say, very much in the grassroots level. We started off with loads of really small clients who were great, but fundamentally, marketing-wise, unsophisticated. And then as we've then developed over time, we're now working with global brands and really experienced, really smart marketers, and everything about ourselves has to be significantly better. And therefore, we need to make sure that we're giving the appropriate level of structure to ensure that everybody's producing the best possible work, that everybody's working collaboratively, that the things that need to be done the same way every time are done the right way. And even though people shiver at it, like the idea of like scoping properly and pricing properly and timesheets and all these kind of like really important parts of agency ops, we have to get right so that people can then be free. But we're also looking to, overall, we don't exclusively say this, but we do believe in the whole idea of like hire the attitude, train the skill. So we are trying to find like raw talent, especially in the social space, to kind of really push them forward. So again, how do we get this balance right between letting people be kind of able to express themselves and bring their best self to work, bring their real self to work, but also make sure that they can get up to speed pretty quickly. And yeah, it's always a challenge. I really do believe in Gen Z workforce. I really do believe in a lot of their traits, but that also brings some challenges sometimes. And trying to educate people on the why you're doing something is hard. And ultimately that needs repetition too.
Tell me a bit more about that hiring on attitude, training on skills. What specifically are you looking for?
It depends on the role, obviously, because like sometimes like certain roles are client facing, certain roles are highly creative, certain roles are a bit more agency ops. And we need to make sure that we are thinking logically around where we need experience and where we don't. I think a lot of agencies have this whole idea of like, oh, we're challenging the holdcos, we're trying to be like a challenger brand. And I totally understand that. It's not like that's our mantra. However, we do fundamentally believe that like things need to change. And one of the reasons that someone like Spin, an independent social agency, can be better, more effective is because we are more nimble and we are more agile. So essentially we are trying to find people that might be might be overlooked elsewhere is potentially one way of saying it. But we have this whole idea, one of our kind of key things that Max and I often say is like energy always wins. We want people who, generally speaking, come into a room and they lift that room. They come into a relationship, they lift that relationship. They have a kind of an energy to get things done. So they see a problem, they see a situation, they want to kind of get going. It's one of the hiring heuristics, if you like, that we use, is this whole idea of when you're thinking about making a hiring call on someone, is like, will this person speed us up or will this person slow us down? And it's not a case of speeding up the work. And we're not saying, could this person do 3 hours work in 1 hour? It's not that at all. It's more, will they start that 3 hours work straight away? Or will they delay it? And will they block it in next Tuesday? And the next Tuesday somebody's ill. And then the following days there's not a meeting room available, or whatever it might be. We want people to have that kind of like bias for action, and therefore for us it's this whole idea of like hire the energy, hire the attitude, hire the willingness, and then the skill in most senses can be trained.
You've got a very specific view in your mind about what good looks like in terms of who you're looking for. How do you then shape this ever expanding team so everyone's behaving the way you want them to behave?
This is definitely one of the ways in which we've invested in the business over the last couple of years, has been what we call like professionalising the business. And professionalising, that meant essentially bringing in expertise and experience from the outside. And whilst we kind of hadn't really done that before, we did realise that if we just keep throwing more and more kind of like hungry, excitable talent into the mix, that they might lack a bit of structure, they might lack consistency. We were able to bring on some really experienced people with amazing CVs from like some of the leading agencies around. And they brought a lot of knowledge and they were able to make change happen. Things that we've been struggling for 6 months, 12 months, whatever it might be, they were able to come in and basically give us bedded change within a couple of months. And that really, really helped. So hiring experience and allowing them to bring in the right level of structure has been really, really valuable.
So it sounds like you're recruiting a large number of young, relatively inexperienced people, as well as some more experienced people with some great CVs to lead them through. Tell me a bit about the journey that a junior person might go on to become the person you want them to be in the business.
Some of the people stories are the things that make us the most proud and ultimately give us the most energy. And I think what's interesting is we've changed our mindset. So we used to almost accept the fact that spin was like a stepping stone destination in your career. And we almost used to promise that. And we'd say, hey, look, come join us. You'll learn more here in 1 year than you will in 6 years elsewhere. And we'll throw you in and you'll learn all this amazing stuff and you'll have the best time and it's going to be amazing. And then you can go on to work somewhere else. One of the team members who brought in some experience to us sort of said, hey, this is all great and that all makes sense, but we need to make spin the destination in and of itself. People need to feel like they can actually come here, make a home and stay for the foreseeable, like have no time limit on how long they expect to be with you for. And that has really helped. And I suppose we have seen a lot of stories now where people have been with us since the early days. So we've got team members many have been with us for more than 5 years. Some of which have been with us for longer. And they've really risen through the ranks with us. And they are now really great sort of stories and symbols of that. And we're not like, I am believers in that talent speaks for itself. Like we try as intently and intentionally as possible to create a meritocracy whereby the best people have the opportunities to develop and the best people have the opportunities to grow within the company. And we've got lots of those people around. They are inspirations for people within the company. So I think kind of changing our mindset a little bit to make sure that we provide enough headroom for people is critical. And that's probably what I see as my number one role as a group CEO is like, despite all the different things that we're doing, it's my job to create enough headroom so that our talent can keep growing and all the right talent can keep growing at the same time. And therefore, that's why we're not afraid to talk about growth as a business, because whilst we don't want to go for completely unsustainable growth, growing means headroom, and headroom means each person will want to stay with you and they can see a path forward and they think, okay, actually, I can really make a move here whilst having a good time and kind of enjoying myself and not taking life too seriously.
So you see your job as creating that headroom for everyone to grow in and to stay with you and to keep learning and developing. Tell me some more ways that you've shifted Spin from being a stepping stone destination to being the destination.
So it's a number of different ways. I mean, partly it's about the work that we're attracting. So we continuously try to reach higher in terms of what we wanted to do. And that sometimes means wider scopes that more people can get involved in and ultimately people can do their best work. But also working on recognized marquee brands and marquee clients. People want to work on brands they've heard of. People want to work on exciting projects that are meaningful and impactful. And we made sure that we created enough exciting clients. I was even speaking to someone the other day within our team and done some really cool stuff recently. And this person who'd been with us for about 6 years said, honestly, there is such a buzz in the team because genuinely we're working on our dream clients. Dream clients we would have spoken about 3 years ago. We're working with a bunch of them now. And that stuff does matter. And then there's this more sort of more structural stuff, such as progression pathways. We try to be really clear around what every single progression pathway looks like. So whether you're creative, whether you're a designer, whether you're in strategy, whether you're in client leadership, you know that there's a progression pathway. And whilst we don't want to create a paint by numbers type opportunity whereby people think I must do X and then I get promoted to Y, but we do make sure that everybody knows loosely what they're aiming for. And then we just communicate a lot about where the business is going and basically make it clear that when we're growing, there's more opportunities for people and therefore try to create that atmosphere whereby everybody's excited by growth.
Alex, tell me a bit more then about how you shape the team so they're behaving in exactly the way that you want them to.
So we have a whole load of different ways of trying to sort of shape kind of how people think. And I guess this is where our values really come to the fore, because we try to sort of think of this idea of values as being like a set of instructions almost, in terms of if Max and I were to not be available, how do you think about your day? How do you think about your time? How do you think about kind of what you want to do within your spin journey? And we've been through many iterations of values, and there's been one or two that have sort of stayed with us for the whole 9 years, and a number of which have changed over time as our culture's changed and kind of what we ultimately value has changed. But now we've got a set of values that we do believe indirectly or directly, they capture effective spin people. When we do our people analyzer, which is a quarterly survey of people within the business, everyone in the business, we score everybody versus our values. And what we find is the best performers within the business are the people who tend to score very highly on the values. So that's aside from their actual job performance and their KPIs, but the values tend to coincide or correlate directly to who's doing well. And we talk about those values a lot, and we don't hand them down people's throats, and we're not kind of over the top with them, but they are living and breathing values, especially things like, for example, always be curious. It's our sort of first value and one of our most spoken about values. And it's just this idea of whatever job role you're in within the business, we hope, or we like to hope, that you are naturally curious about what you do. And we say, if the idea of listening to a podcast that's related to your field on the way home is your idea of hell, then that's kind of okay, but you're never going to be as effective as you can be at your job. Equally, we never say, right, you must listen to 3 podcasts on your way home. That's not our business to say. But essentially, if people are drawn towards the right kind of career paths, then they would normally have that natural curiosity. So we try to let things like that kind of live and breathe within spin. And there's a few different ones that kind of all coincide. And as we said, we feel like they kind of shape spin employees and help us get a sense of who's most likely to succeed within spin.
So you've got always being curious. Tell me what the other values are.
The next one is this idea of keep up. And when we were thinking about values, we wanted values that both attracted the right people, but also repelled the wrong people. Because it's okay to say that spin is not right for everyone, right? It's okay to admit the fact that we are a specific type of workplace and we're great at this and we're great at that, but we are this and we are that. And keeping up is one of the things that we're very open about, the fact that spin moves fast. Again, we had a slightly cheesy phrase that social moves fast, but spin moves faster. And we have to keep moving as fast as we can. And therefore, we're not ashamed to say that you will join us, you will get onboarding, you will get training. Of course, you're given a grace period. We're not controlling micromanagers. However, there is a natural cadence and a natural pace that spin moves at. And people either pick it up very quickly and they go, yeah, cool, fine, I'll move at that pace. And it's give and take, and people are overall very kind of happy at their time at spin. But for some people, they just can never quite catch that speed, and they can never quite understand the processes. They can never quite understand how quickly we communicate, how quickly we move from thing to thing. switch from client to client, switch from situation to situation. So keep up is one of our next ones. Another one we have is the whole idea of upholding high standards, which basically is this idea that we are trying to be worthy of the biggest work in the industry. We are trying to be worthy of winning the biggest social RFPs out there. And therefore, each of us in our own little way has to make sure that we are keeping our standards as high as possible. We have to be our own sort of personal quality control. The idea is that we just want people to be able to produce their best, whatever they are in, whether they're a designer, whether they're a strategist, whether they're in finance, HR, doesn't matter. They have to keep their own standards up. So that's another one, high standards. Then we have show respect always, which is this whole idea of it's easy to show respect in a day-to-day calm environment, but agencies, social, they're not day-to-day calm environments. They are challenging, they are hard. There's good days, there's bad days, there's busy days, there's chaotic days. There's clients, and whilst obviously working with clients is something that we love, there's challenges that come with that. We work in such a kind of subjective space within social that we have to be able to keep our minds clear and make sure that we are respectful to each other as individuals and respectful to our clients. And sometimes people are just not a fit because they can't handle their stressful moments, or like overly direct without being constructive, for example. And then the final one is this whole idea of act with initiative, which is just this idea that we will give you manuals for certain things, but there is not a manual for everything. We do not want a process or a SOP for everything. There's a lot of the time you just need to use your initiative. We've all got ChatGPT now. We all had Google before. There's lots of different ways to basically get the answers sometimes. And sometimes you don't need to stop, ask the question, wait for the answer. Sometimes we all have to move forward with not completely clear facts. And sometimes we all have to basically kind of step into the dark a little bit and kind of get on with our jobs and be in that discomfort zone. And people need to be comfortable with that.
Alex, those are genuinely some really great values, and you explained the rationale behind them in a really nice way. Tell me a bit more about how you build on all that so that those behaviours carry through to client relationships.
Yeah, and again, sort of taking values from being something which are on paper to actually making them part of the day-to-day life is a challenge. The ways that we do it is that we have the obvious stuff. We have the posters around the office and things like that, which is fine. That makes sense and that works. But the things that are a bit more real is they are in every appraisal. So everybody has 2 appraisals per year, and they are, in terms of the first kind of meaty section, the scorecard, 5 out of the 8 scores are related to values. So we're scoring everybody on values all the time. And that kind of gives us feedback, and there's written feedback that go with it, and we're scoring everybody on the values. So that really helps, and people know it's actually directly tied to their promotion case, their compensation case, and things like that. We recognize things quite publicly. So we have awards, like actual like physical awards that we give out, like kind of tied to the values. Again, we don't sort of overstate it, but fundamentally they give us a clear idea of who is doing what and why that makes sense. So we repeat them and we recognize them and we reward them in that sense. And then the other way, which I mentioned just before, was the people analyzer, which is a quarterly thing that we do as an SLT every single quarter, where I would go through each individual within the business and we'll score them based on each value about basically whether they demonstrate it all the time, demonstrate it some of the time, or don't demonstrate it at all. And everybody therefore gets a score of either 2, which is all the time, 1 or 0. And then we're able to basically give people a rolling score. And we are able to then see whether people are kind of moving upwards or downwards, whether there's a slight change in behavior. I was amazed by just how much that taught us and how many different lines of inquiry it gave us across the business as to whether like someone's actually a real rising star. Somebody seems a little bit, there's just like change in behavior there. There's actually maybe a slight cause for concern there in terms of like, is someone okay? Because maybe something in their life is affecting them and that's made them not show respect all the time. Because if maybe someone was really respectful, we hadn't really discussed it before. And then suddenly we sat down and we said, actually in Q1, this person really has been not very considered in their approach and they've been argumentative and tricky. It's not just a case of, right, well, it's a problem, let's go and tell them off. It's actually a case of, right, let's flag this, let's have a discussion with them because maybe there's something going on.
Okay, so you've got a really strong definition of what good looks like within Spin. One of the things that have happened as part of your journey is you've acquired a couple of businesses along the way. Tell me about how you've integrated those businesses whilst maintaining the Spin way.
That's been the number one challenge in a good way is our acquisition at the start of this year was the biggest one. We did one before, which was a brilliant way to test the idea. But this time we took on about 20 people, in some of them in the UK, some of them in mainland Europe, some of them in Latin America, some of them in Australia. So we had a whole new set of challenges on our hands, basically how to make people feel like part of Spin. But also, we wanted to keep their name as Be a Bear, and we wanted to make sure that Be a Bear continued to have their own identity. Like, that was part of the goal. The goal was never to take the people on, sunset the brand, and to take the clients. We acquired them for a strategic reason, and they bring a huge amount of value and knowledge, and they open up a whole lot of different doors for us, as well as filling one of our gaps. So we needed to keep their identity. And we were very mindful that it didn't take, therefore, too much senior leadership bandwidth, because we didn't want everybody to be all excited by this new acquisition and suddenly everybody's lending an opinion, everybody's getting involved, and we're not really thinking through what Spin is. But equally, we wanted the Be a Bear guys to feel part of something that was exciting. We wanted them to feel like, okay, I still get to be me. All the progress I've made and kind of the reputation I've built within the company is still there. However, I now get access to a bunch of things. And this is where the whole over-communication thing comes back again. Myself and Max, we were just very, very clear from the start, and we always we're very open and candid with how we deal with things. So when we met the team, we spent a bunch of time to really get to know them, to understand them, to make sure that we were clearly the kind of people who were going to put FaceTime in and get to know people. And I would say that overall, our onboarding and our integration has gone kind of in a circular way. We started off really focused on culture, and we were really focused on communicating, introducing people, introducing Be a Bear to Spin, trying to create social events, trying to do joint team meetings, trying to do joint status meetings, trying to have joint press releases, just trying to make people feel like one thing and basically give them air to get to know each other and be excited by the wider company. And actually, we led with some of the things that we could really bring to the table for the Be a Bear team. And that might be some of because we're a little bit further down the track, we can speak about the big clients, the HR perks, the support, the consistency, whatever it might be. Then we really went down a real focus of agency ops, and we were really focused for the next 2 months about, let's get rate cards together, make them look the same way. Let's get progression pathways, make them look the same way. Let's get resourcing, forecasting. Let's get things looking largely the same from an agency ops perspective. But then being completely open with you, after about 2 months of that, we actually looked at ourselves and we're like, we've not done enough of the culture stuff again. We've got so focused on infrastructure that actually we need to dial up the culture. So again, we went back to that and we've driven that again now. So it's trying to keep everything moving forward at the same time is a challenge, but I think we are getting there. And again, we've got sort of survey data to make sure that we are listening to that, and we try to make sure that we're taking action off any survey data to get clear on things. But so far, the integration has gone really, really well, and we're really happy with how things are looking, and hopefully it's a model that we can benefit from going forward.
And talking of models, you're a big proponent of the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS. Tell me a bit more about how you use EOS and what you think the benefits are to Spin.
Yeah, EOS has been something which has overall been a real net positive for us. As we were in our kind of growing up phase, I decided that, okay, actually this could really benefit us. So the way for us to do it was to get an implementer, and basically they have all these like official kind of implementers all around the world, but also all around the UK. And they basically come in and you pay them like quite a lot on a day rate, but they are generally very good, and they have this very clear onboarding implementation cycle where they get to know you. Then you have like a vision day 1, then a vision day 2, then a quarterly rolling kind of update. And by hiring somebody external to come in and help shape it for us, everybody took it a lot more seriously, and everybody was a lot more committed to what we were doing. We went out the office and we actually did it in like a conference room, and we were just having someone guide us through it made such a difference. And I never would have been able to make it stick had I tried to do it myself, because I was too involved. And also I had quite a big role to play on the onboarding as well. So I didn't have to try to play 2 roles. I was able to sort of sit and participate. And yeah, we went whole hog for the first 6-7 months, something like that. We did every different tool they've got. And we thought, let's do it properly, because the way I saw it was most of the EOS tools are tools or concepts that exist with other names within the business realm, but actually had a way of tying them all together, which I quite liked. So I was like, let's commit. We started that process about almost 2 years ago now. And I'd say 2 years in, we probably have kept probably 60% of the things that we started, because the things that just stuck naturally have provided value, and they're really useful. And again, speaking about language before, quite a lot of the language that we use now day to day is EOS language, which has now become Spin language. And it has helped us. And some of the components have really streamlined how we think and how we act, and definitely been a net positive.
So I know that the People Analyzer is part of EOS. Can you tell me some more specific things from EOS which you're doing?
One of the main things that we use on a day-to-day basis is what's called the Level 10 meeting. And it's basically this nicely organized weekly status meeting. And basically we found we were having a lot of status meetings in general, but they lacked a bit of structure, whereby following this kind of meeting structure, which is backed up by a bit of just very basic software, we were able to have real consistency to our meetings. And they start in the same way, and you have literally a pre-organized bit of small talk that you have, and then you switch over to your headlines, and it's a nice place for people to like place their headlines, and then you move on to your rocks, which are like your quarterly objectives. Then you look at the previous actions from the last L10 to make sure that actually you've done what you said you're going to do. Then you move on to probably what my favorite part of the whole EOS system is this whole idea of, it's called the issues list. And basically it's a place, like depository, where everybody can put an issue that they see within the company. And it might be anything from, we missed the mark on that strategy and we misunderstood the brief, that is something quite big, or it might be, we keep running out of tea bags, and it's kind of, and people can just put it there. And then as a leadership team, or each different team, so there'll be one for the SLT, there'll be one for the ops team, there'll be one for the creative team. Each team can then go on and basically do what's called IDSing, which is basically where you identify, discuss, and then solve an issue. And just by having this solve bit has been so valuable, because what we found, probably like a lot of companies, we would identify issues, we'd discuss them, and we go round and round and round and round, and then we'd sort of just finish and we just move on. There wouldn't be a solve. Whereas when there's a solve, you put that action into the L10 meeting, and then you're held accountable that following week to make sure that you've done that action. So the whole thing ties together quite nicely. And I think the level 10 has been really, really positive. Yeah, the People Analyzer is really good. Some of the vision setting side of things is good. There's I think it's called a vision traction organizer, which is basically a way of sort of answering some key questions to get clearer about where you're going. That's been good, although it's not a central manual to what we do, but it's a useful thought exercise.
Well, it sounds like the EOS has been a really great thing for you as a business. Alex, you've shared so many things about your amazing 9-year journey. Let's look to the future now. What's next for you and what's next for Spin?
The last couple of years of what we, as like professionalising the agency, was really hard work, like really positive, but it was really hard work, because we went from being this super nimble, everything was a bit more fast and loose and a bit more fun like before. But we knew, and we made a conscious choice in about 2022, that we're not going to be able to be who we want to be unless we bring in this layer of like structure and logic and experience. And if I could click my fingers and jump those 2 years and suddenly it was all done, then that would be lovely. But in truth, it was 2 years of trying, failing, communicating, getting things right. And we're just about through the other side of that now. We've done this kind of like professionalization era, and we feel really, really positive about that. So having done the hard work, it's now about making the most of it. We're growing in reputation, we're growing in stature, we're growing in kind of like general recognition. So we want to continue to enjoy that growth. The whole point of Spin is to strive and thrive. And like striving means that we're continuously trying to get better. We're continuously trying to find new challenges. And for us at the moment, the whole concept of acquiring key skill sets, acquiring brilliant teams has been a really, really positive journey. Moving into international markets is really exciting, but also continuing to just strive as an internal team. We've still got lots of work to do as an internal team. So striving, but also alongside it, thriving. And by thriving, we mean make sure we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're not all out here saving lives. It's important work, and we take our work seriously. For those of us who are in London, we're in one of the most exciting, vibrant cities on earth. We're surrounded by people we enjoy spending time with. We're working on some really, really cool clients doing largely creative work. And whilst there's some challenging days, there's far more good days than there is bad days. So let's make sure that we continue to thrive as well as strive. And if we keep doing those things, then we'll keep being excited about what we're doing. And the best investment we can make in Spin at the moment is to create an environment that we actually enjoy, because then we'll stick around for longer and then we'll rise higher. So for now, it's about making sure that we're continuing to have that kind of excitement.
I really like that phrase, strive and thrive. What a fantastic way to end this podcast. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been so wonderful to hear about your journey and hear about the many amazing things that you've been doing at Spin. And I wish you all the best for the future.
Thanks so much. It's been a lot of fun.
You've been listening to Human Powered, the podcast all about creating a high-performing agency or consultancy business. Thanks for tuning in.